to Your Academic Success in 5. I'm Matt Lorenzen, the Academic Success Guru, and this is the third part of a three-part video series on memory and study skills, where I cover my top 10 tips for memory and study skills, the art of smart studying, how to make things really stick in your mind so that you end up really having to study less, but you get more return on your investment, and information really comes to mind really easily and readily during test time. And that brings us to study tip number 7, which is to use mnemonics for remembering lists, but not for comprehension. Let's go over some really cool mnemonics. Number 1 are acronyms. Acronyms are formed by you take the list of words that you're trying to remember, and you take the first letter of each of the words, and then you create a new word out of all of those first letters. Examples that come to mind are Roy-G-Biv for the colors of the rainbow, and PEMDAS, which are the orders of a math operation. Super effective in helping you remember those in order. The next one, mnemonic, is Acrostics. Instead of making a new word out of the first letters of what you're trying to remember, you will make a new sentence. And the acrostic for PEMDAS will illustrate. Instead of saying PEMDAS, you say, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," where the first letters of each word in the sentence represent the orders of the operation. It does require you to choose a catchy acrostic because you don't want to forget the acrostic. And a catchy acrostic that was effectively used for anatomy students that an human anatomy teacher once taught me, that helps one remember the carpals in the order on the right hand from bottom to top and from left to right, was the acrostic "Some lovers try positions that they cannot handle," which represents the bones Scaphoid, Lunate, Triquetrum, Pisiforn, Trapezium, Trapezoid, Capitate, and Hamate. This acrostic effectively uses a catchy, raunchy, and funny sentence that activates or befriends the amygdala, and it helps remembering those series of bones, all those bones, a little bit easier and stuff like that. In terms of another really cool mnemonic is the loci method. And this is a method that was used in ancient Greece to remember things in order. And what you do, let's say you have a list of words, what you want to do is take something that you know really well, like your home, and imagine walking through your home. And then as you go through the front door, let's say, you imagine the first item on your list. And you don't want to imagine just the item on the list, but you want to create something that's very hyperbolic or exaggerated, or has some, raunchy or whatever associational network that you can create that's going to make this image paired with the area that you're walking through in your house very poignant. Let me use an example. So let's say you're trying to remember banana, chef, and rain. Just 3 examples. So when you open your front door, you don't open your door handle, but you open a door handle that has a giant banana. And when you open it, you all of a sudden see Emerald in a chef outfit, smelling of banana fritters in the front doorway. And he says, "Bam!" And all of a sudden it starts raining on your banana fritters. And you just keep on going through the house and doing something like that as a way to create an associational network. Kind of cool, kind of fun, very creative, really easy to remember information if you do that. Study tip number 8. Review the material within 24 hours, and after learning the material, just chill to let your brain consolidate the information. Remember, we forget half of what we learn within 2 hours, and within 24 hours, we forget 70% of what we learn, the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. So let's just do that brief study review, brief review of the information before you crash out and go to bed. This will lock in the information, and that's so essential in terms of dealing with that Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. The other thing I want to talk about is the research that talks about if you study something, it's best to chill or maybe even take a nap after you study it. Research shows that after you study something, your brain is still processing that information and still storing that information from short-term into long-term memory and creating those strong connections. So the best thing to do after class or after studying is maybe just walk around and chill. Don't go texting someone or doing something that requires your attention. And that way your brain can lock in that information. After class, for example, you can also talk with friends. That's a great way, again, to strengthen those things that you just learned. Study tip number 9 is to test yourself and the importance of free recall. Testing yourself is really one of the best ways to know the material in and out. Through testing yourself, you really find information that needs work, and it forces you to study more in that areas, and also in those areas, and also use better memory techniques to better lock that information into long-term memory. There's something about the recognition of error that enables you to not make that error again. It's sort of forcing us to consciously recognize, I don't know that information, and study more, lock that information in. I think that's what's going on there. Now, what's up with free recall? That's remembering the information without notes or looking at the answer. Great way to test yourself is using 3x5 cards, right? Flashcards, where you have the question on the front, you have the answer on the back, and you test yourself and you see if you can recall the information without any associational cues, without that information written in front of you. And that brings us to study tip number 10, which is to teach others and applied learning. You remember 25% of what you see, 40% of what you see and hear, and 50% of what you see, hear, and do. So important to apply the learning that you're gathering from your textbooks, from your lectures, to your real life, going beyond what you're learning from your textbooks and lectures and getting more information on the information that you're studying. It's really going to help strengthen those associational networks. In addition, we remember 70% of what we see, hear, do, and teach. Teaching others in study groups is a really effective way to lock in that information. Teaching others forces us to really understand the information. And as I talked about earlier, understanding and having to present the information really kind of locks in that information, those associational cues. It's really easier to remember things that logically make sense. Teaching others also uses our multiple senses. We see things, we hear things, we talk about things, we write things down, and this is a great way to lock in information again in different parts of our brain and strengthen those associational networks. In addition, learning in study groups increases motivation, and also we learn all these other viewpoints that we might not have seen in terms of the information that we're studying, and another great way to understand the information and lock in all those strong associational experiences and carve paths into your brain and create what I call this smart studying, where you're very active and creative in storing the information from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. Thank you for watching this video on memory and study skills. I hope you found it helpful. For more in-depth review of memory and study skills, as well as other student success topics, check out my book, Your Academic Success, The Academic Success Guru, Secrets to School Success, and now available on Amazon. Also, for private personal development coaching on how to improve your memory and study skills, or college admissions consulting and counseling, check out my website, www.academicsuccessguru.com. This is the Academic Success Guru, Matt Lorenzen, signing off.